Hello everybody, welcome to this chapter. In this chapter, I'm going to be talking about one of the many techniques that I use to paint. In this technique, I wanted to demonstrate because this is one I use often and one that I like to teach young students because this is one that you should definitely be practicing often. Now, when you're doing your studies, it's going to be important to go ahead and practice and understand the things you are painting. For me, I paint these types of things all the time, so I have no problem doing it. But starting from a silhouette, just a blank shape, and then maybe going into line art or going into, blocking in the values or whatever, however you feel comfortable. I feel like silhouette is one of the easiest ways to kind of get started. It keeps you in line and not distracted. And because when people start to paint, they just want to paint everything, they want to draw everything, and unfortunately that's not always the best solution. And so with this, I'm going I'm strategizing, I'm planning ahead, I'm making different layers, and I'm setting up different layers so I can do this thing that I'm about to show you right now, which is, if you look in this top corner, you see that there's a lock on the layer. And what that does on my layer, it allows me to paint on top of it without any problems. And that's how you lock it, by pressing that button right there. And so now you can see what I'm talking about. I'm demonstrating now exactly what I mean. So I'm going in here and now I'm painting within those borders. And I'm also keeping my values very limited. I'm using 2 or 3 brushes. I used one brush, which was an airbrush, to kind of give myself a sense of volume. And I'm using another brush, is more kind of a chiseled kind of texture brush, to now sharpen those edges and start to accentuate areas that I feel can pop out. And this is something that I've practiced over and over and over again. And this whole video has been sped up about 3 or 4 times. I think it was a 15-minute video now being condensed in about not even 2 times the speed, right? It's funny because when I sped this video up, it actually was already pretty fast, but I wanted to speed up till I can get to the point. But yeah, this video originally elapsed about 15 minutes. You can always go back and watch the raw video step by step and see how things were done. And I use a lot of hotkeys. A lot of this is me going through my hotkeys, pushing buttons accurately and efficiently, and I have talked about that in a previous video, and it's very important to master your hotkeys, because when you master your hotkeys, you can go in and out without any real problems. You're not worrying about the technical difficulties and the stuff like that. So let's go ahead and talk about the next step that I did here, which basically is I went ahead and started giving my character a background. This allows me to kind of push and pull the values some more, giving myself a sense of what the lighting situation could be. And when that comes into fruition, it allows me to really sit here and come up with a better decision to maybe push this darker to a darker value, maybe push this to a lighter value. And a lot of this stuff that you're seeing me do is just a demonstration of just the power of practice, right? And what I always tell my students is that you guys should always keep your values super simple, super clean, super consistent. For instance, I have a value that is about this kind of medium dark gray. I'm going to keep all my shadow values at that same dark gray. I'm not dealing with any other materials when I'm painting this. I think you guys should do the same thing. Just basically paint gray monsters or great gray objects or great characters with no other value range other than that. So you're just only focusing on light and form. The more you introduce, the more difficult things become. And so for me, since I'm only focusing on one value in terms of the local value, which the local value would be the whole character in terms of its painting, in terms of the same, it's all one gray, allows me to kind of really focus only on lighting and form. And then I go ahead and paint the back tentacles because they're separated from the foreground character, and they're also separated from the background, allowing me tons of freedom to go ahead and paint this stuff. And it's really, really important to understand that this is, when I started painting like this, when I started developing this process, I was destroying bad habits. I was increasing my ability to paint efficiently and effectively. I used to paint all on one layer, and I still do here and there, right? Painting on one layer is no big deal, but I also used to only paint on one layer. I used to be kind of a weird stickler about using multiple layers, but as I've discovered or throughout my career, you want to create the best possible product. So using whatever technique and ability to get you there is going to be helpful. So one of the things that I want you guys to understand when you're watching this video is how quickly and how efficiently I was able to come to this painting with using really intelligent layer modes, with using blocking in very simple value setups, and keeping myself focused and practicing just painting. And these are the kinds of things I do often. I practice this type, like oblong blob creatures, or like oblong shapes of, like, then render out a material like metal or something like that. I will do these types of paintings outside of my full painting. I would, like, before I go and tackle my character, I would do a painting like this just to have fun, just to feel out the forms and get myself to practice using my brushes, using Photoshop better, coming up with better strategies for the future. And so this is kind of like where I stop the painting. And so my final thoughts to you guys is just, push forward and, do these types of paintings in between or before or after your full painting, and you'll see a lot of growth in your work as you move on and practice. So with that, let's go ahead and talk about things that I do to practice design in the next video.